What if the moment you're waiting for to change your life isn't about the moment at all? 8 years ago, I was living on an island off of Hong Kong, and I got a phone call in the middle of the night. It was my mom calling from Riverside Hospital in Toronto. "Come home," she said. "Your dad's dying." I raced to the airport, and I made it home in less than 24 hours. And when I got to the hospital, my dad was still alive, and his eyes were open, but he didn't have a lot of life left in him. After a 20-year battle with Parkinson's disease, his time on earth was coming to an end. So my family gathered in and said our goodbyes, and we thought that this was it. But my dad, whose motto in life was never give up, just wasn't ready to give up. It was the first time in a long time we'd all been together as a family. My brother and his wife had flown in from the West Coast, and I'd flown in from Hong Kong, and my mom was there, and he just wanted to be together with all of us. So we hung on. Have you ever watched a person starve to death? Now imagine that person's your dad. My dad was my person growing up. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to swim, how to paddle a canoe, how to ski down a mountain. He picked me up at the side of the road when I ran away with my little blue suitcase as a little girl. And when I was having a bad day, he'd take me to Baskin-Robbins for our favorite Rocky Road ice cream. We spent the last week of his life listening to his favorite music, John Denver, on repeat. And it was beautiful, and it was awful. And not just because of John Denver. We watched him as he went from the man that we knew to someone that was on his way out. And slowly he deteriorated in front of our eyes. He couldn't eat and he couldn't drink, but he just wanted to be there with us, so we hung on. On what would be the last night of his life, I slept in his hospital room. And in the middle of the night, when the nurses came to check on him, I woke up and the curtains were drawn open and there was a full moon in the sky. And my dad just lay there looking at it. And I sat up and I held his hands and I told him all the things that I'd wanted to say. I told him that I was sorry. I was sorry for running away to the other side of the world, and I was sorry that I wasn't there for him. And even though we couldn't talk, he squeezed my hand and he looked at me, and I knew that I was forgiven. And the next day, with my brother and my mom and I holding his hands, my dad took his last breath. That week together and my dad's death, it changed my life for about 2 weeks. And that's not because I'm some kind of a horrible monster or a robot with no feelings. It's because temporary change isn't real change. And because 2 weeks later, I was on another plane, taking another job in Costa Rica this time, looking for another experience, another adventure, another moment to change my life. I lived in 10 countries in 10 years. I saw the sunrise from the summit of Mount Kinabalu. I went to the Arctic, and I saw herds of wild muskox, and I skinny dipped in the Arctic Ocean. And I surfed with professional surfers in Nicaragua and Australia and Morocco. And I jumped out of a plane 5 times at 10,000 feet over New Zealand. And I swam with crocodiles in Peru and in Borneo. And all of those things were amazing, but none of them were the moment that changed my life. And then 4 years ago, on the last day of a 10-day silent meditation retreat in the jungle in Thailand, I was walking from the dorm to the final meditation, and a firefly flew right up in front of me. And I hadn't seen a firefly since my dad died. And I was totally stunned, and I stuck up my finger, and the firefly landed right on the tip of my finger. And I was so shocked, I completely forgot where I was, and I broke my 10-day vow of silence, and I said, "Dad?" And of course it wasn't him, and as soon as I said that, it was gone, and it didn't matter, because that wasn't the moment either. And then 3 days later, I was sitting on the beach with some friends, and I was drinking a beer and thinking a little bit about life, and I thought to myself, what if it's not about all those moments? What if the moment that changes everything is just the moment that I decide to change? Because it wasn't the beer in my hand, and it wasn't the sand between my toes, and it wasn't the kaleidoscope of colors across the sunset sky. It was me. I was the catalyst. I decided to change my life. Because the moment that changed my life is the moment I just decided. And the ironic thing is, I came home to Canada and I started this amazing event in this great community of female entrepreneurs, and we take them on unforgettable adventures and unforgettable locations, and we share all of these unforgettable moments. But we know that none of those moments are the moment that will change their life. Because the moment that changes your life is the moment you decide to change.